Call this meeting of the Gladstone City Commission on Monday, October 13th, 2014, 7 p.m. to order. The first item on our agenda, on our printed agenda tonight, is the invocation. Mayor Pro Tem Mattinen is going to lead us in invocation. Please rise.
Shall we pray?
Yes.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to meet tonight. We're thankful for each one that's made the special effort to come out and participate. And Father, we just thank you for your love and your goodness to us and the great community you've given us. And we just pray that you'll help us to have your wisdom and discernment as we continue to make decisions for this community. Help us to be open and objective, and help us to make the best possible decisions. We just pray that you be with us in everything that we do and say. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, City Clerk, will you call the roll, please? Here.
Commissioner Bostwick?
Here.
Commissioner Gay?
Here.
Commissioner Mattinen?
Here.
Commissioner Nemechek?
Here.
Very good. Next item on our agenda is public comment. Anybody who'd like to address the commission, would you stand up and take the podium? Tell us your name and your address, please.
Name's Eric Huseby, 1403 Wisconsin Avenue, Gladstone, Michigan. You guys probably know what I'm here about. I'm not happy with the ordinance on the ORVs. First of all, I was told as long as I move my fishing boat every 48 hours, I would not get a ticket. That turned out to be false. I was also told that this was going to be an ordinance on if it was a complaint, if your neighbor complained, if your neighbor didn't complain, there wouldn't be a problem. Well, it's not. I talked to Renee, and that's not even in the ordinance. Everything you guys told me turned out to not be true about that ordinance. And right now I got about a 20 by 25 foot square in the back of my house that I can actually park my fishing boat and stay within the ordinance. And the other thing you guys told me is, see the compliance officer and he'll work with you. Well, he can't work with me because it's an ordinance that you guys voted on. There's nothing he can change about it. So everything you guys said in the meeting here that you were going to work with, he can't work with. You know, this reminds me of something I heard on TV the other day. If you like your health insurance plan, you can keep it. Or, we really got to vote on this bill to see what's in it. Thank you. Oh yeah, by the way, that took me an hour and a half the other day, and I found 47 people in violation of that ordinance, and I only hit about a third of the town. Not even a third of the town. And I didn't hit the alleys. I bet you I could only put 150.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Seeing none, we will move on to consent agenda, which consists of the City Commission work session meeting minutes of September 22nd, 2014, the City Commission regular meeting minutes of September 22, 2014. City Commission and Planning Commission held a joint meeting to discuss a master plan, and there's minutes from that meeting on September 23rd, 2014 it was held, and there's payment of bills.
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda.
Support. Moved by Commissioner Bostwick, supported by Commissioner Gay to accept the consent agenda as presented on our agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion is carried. Moving on to public hearings. We have no public hearings tonight, so the next item on our agenda is unfinished business. It says chickens in the city. We have a rather lengthy staff report. The City Commission directed the Gladstone Planning Commission to, shall I say, restudy the issue of came up with an individual in town getting cited or getting notified that chickens were not allowed in the city, and they had chickens at their location. The Planning Commission has sent back a rather lengthy report to us. Responsible staff is listed as Renee Barron. Does the commission want to discuss this, or do you want?
Well, just a couple of questions. First, we directed them to provide us with a draft ordinance. which they did, and it's in the packet. And I was assuming that this was basically going to be an introduction of this ordinance and maybe scheduling a public hearing.
That's not the order that it's going to go in. It is referred back to you with the request that you want. You guys look at the ordinance, decide what way you want to go. If you want to pursue that ordinance, then it needs to be published that there's going to be an introduction of this ordinance.
Okay, so the introduction does have to be published as well as the public hearing.
Correct. After
Okay.
the introduction
Okay.
happens the introduction and public hearing cannot happen at the same meetings either. So,
Right.
this was not introduced as a possible, ordinance that you're up for consideration because you haven't made that call yet to do that. If you make the call to say we're gonna proceed with this ordinance, you need to introduce it at the next meeting. After the introduction, you need to
Schedule
set a
a public
public
hearing.
hearing.
Yep.
Then after the public hearing is when you can entertain making
Okay.
a decision on it.
For the public who doesn't maybe have what we've got in front of you, even though it is public information, you can certainly request it. I'm going to read the description of this agenda item. On August 11, 2014, the City Commission requested the Planning Commission to review the Ann Arbor Chicken Ordinance and to propose a chicken ordinance one way or the other back to the Commission, City Commission. The Planning Commission met on September 23, 2014 to consider the Planning Commission's subcommittee recommendations regarding chickens in the City of Gladstone. The minutes from that meeting are attached, which includes the Planning Commission motion that was made. In summary, the motion states that after careful review, the Planning Commission is not in favor of allowing chickens in the City of Gladstone. The Planning Commission put together a solid draft ordinance to allow chickens should the City Commission choose to proceed to allow them. So now it's back in our court.
Joe?
Commissioner Amachek.
I've read all there is to read about the chicken ordinance and the proposed chicken ordinance. I've read all the planning commission information. I've read the ordinance. The planning commission for the second time has suggested that we not have chickens in the city. The department heads of the city recommend that we don't allow chickens in the city. Logic tells me that we have an ordinance now that does not allow chickens in the city, and we have some chickens. So logic follows that if we allow some chickens, we're going to have lots of chickens. I move that we do not allow chickens in the city of Gladstone and keep the ordinance the same. Also, let me just add that I've had 15 or 20 people contact me outside of this hall, and every one of them wants me to vote no on chickens in the city. I didn't have one person come to me in support of chickens, and that's 15 or 20 people.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Nemechek, supported by Commissioner Mattinen to basically to drop the issue of trying to change our ordinance which would allow chickens in the city. Any further discussion on that?
Well, it's not that clear cut. The problem is that, as I indicated initially, and to add further, I don't have a dog in the fight because I really don't care either way. There is ambiguity in the ordinance. So are we saying that we are going to not do anything and then continue to not enforce the ordinance? Or if we choose to enforce the ordinance, are we interested in litigation in the future if someone challenges it because it is ambiguous?
It's true of any ordinance, but in a small
Well,
town
it's-
like Gladstone, ordinance are basically, it's by complaint.
Okay.
Realistically, if a person has a few chickens and the neighbors don't complain, and they tell me that that's true in 10 or 12 households in Gladstone. In fact,
That's more
someone told me that someone in Gladstone has a cow.
There's more than 10 or 12, that's for sure.
Yeah,
My problem with it is where we have an opportunity to take an ordinance and clarify the language in it so that we can properly enforce it and control it before it becomes a problem. That was what I thought this was an opportunity to do. But if we're going to say, well, we're just going to leave things as they are and not enforce and not, you know.
Our
I
ordinance
don't
is clear, we don't allow farm
The
animals.
ordinance is not clear.
We don't allow farm animals.
Well, then if you want to, you know, if you're interested in going to argue with someone what they view as a pet versus a farm animal, go ahead. I have no interest in doing that.
Well, that's true of any ordinance.
Okay,
Anyone
so I
can
think we've
challenge an
got,
ordinance.
I think we've got two issues here. We have a motion on the floor, it's been supported to not pursue this issue any further, but we have a separate issue, which is the ambiguity of the ordinance. And I think if one commissioner feels there's ambiguity in the ordinance, I think we have an obligation as a commission to pursue that. Is there disagreement from the commission on that?
I think you have a motion and a second on the floor.
Absolutely, we do, and we're going to vote on that. So having said that, I will call a question. All those in favor of the motion to stand by our ordinance that does not allow chickens in the city and pursue the matter no further regarding allowing chickens in the city, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Yeah, I
you
actually
a nay
was
or a
saying, I was saying a no, because I actually agree with Matt that we should actually
Okay.
said that, clarify exactly that it should not be allowed. That's why I'm saying no, but I actually do support that we should
So
not do.
3-2, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, now I think we would entertain a motion to have staff, you want a roll call? Okay.
You have to have a roll call according to your rules when there's a no vote.
Thank you for pointing that out to me. Call a roll, please.
Commissioner Nemechek,
Yes.
Commissioner Mattinen,
Yes.
Commissioner Gay,
No.
Commissioner Bostwick,
No.
Mayor Mackey.
Yes. Now I would entertain a motion to pursue the ordinance further.
I make a motion that we make it more clarified that we do not allow chickens in the city of Gladstone.
I would hope that I could, or I'm going to ask rather, that you include in your motion having a commissioner be involved in this process as well, and I would hope that would be Commissioner Gay. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Matt?
Time permits.
Okay, thank you. Well, you're going to have to call a meeting when Commissioner Gay is available. So,
I'll second that motion.
okay, Commissioner Bostwick made a motion to have Commissioner Gay sit down with staff and read the ordinance, pursue the ordinance, and come back to the commission with a recommendation about changing some of the wording in the ordinance, which of course is a whole new ordinance procedure, is it not?
For anything that you would change. Would be an ordinance amendment.
So am I calling another roll call vote on this one too?
No, not unless there's somebody that says no. Not at this time, Mayor.
All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No. I think it's a waste of time because I think it's very clear. I think the ordinance is clear. But
So now we need a roll call vote.
Yes.
Would you call the roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Bostwick,
Yes.
Commissioner Gay,
Yes.
Commissioner Mattinen,
Yes.
Commissioner Nemechek,
no.
and Mayor Mackey.
Yes. Good. I guess. We're moving on to new business. Under new business, we have Section 19 Disaster Assistance Grant. I think at our last meeting, I think we were informed that over and above the $298,000 that came in from one source of state government, we are going to applying for another $100,000 for last year's very severe winter. And so Mr. Buckman, our water and wastewater superintendent, is going to address the commission on that matter.
After we didn't come up with enough money, that would be all of the UP to get a FEMA declaration, the governor came up with this Section 19 Disaster Assistance Grant, in which you can get up to $100,000. And so I have in your packet a resolution that has to be, so this is asking you to adopt the resolution for us, give me permission to go up and apply for the grant. When we originally applied to FEMA, I think we were over $188,000 in expenses, but they keep, every group that you apply for has a different formula. One you can use overtime, one you can't, one you can use equipment rentals, one you need to use gas slips, and so it's a complicated process. So in going through all these numbers with a lot of help from my staff, came up with over $105,000. that would be eligible, but they cut the grant off at 100, so I'm going to go up to Marquette tomorrow to the Nagani cops, so to speak, and ask for $100,000. So
Any questions from the commission?
I'd move that we adopt the State Disaster Contingency Fund Grant Resolution.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Matten, supported by Commissioner Nemechek to authorize the city manager to sign the necessary documents for the Section 19 Disaster Assistance Grant for last year's severe winter. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion is carried. The next item is also going to be Eric, the wastewater department would like to apply for a RAP grant. That's our liability and property folks, I guess, I believe. For a sewer push camera system. The grant requires a 50% match up to $7,000. The approximate cost of this item is $10,000.
this
We
would
don't
be
have
a-
anything like that now, do we?
No, this would be a match of 5,000. They'd pay 5,000. We'd pay 5,000. Last winter, we could have used this several times with we had collapsed laterals underneath streets, which you can probably see the patches all over town. And we'll be able to use this one. There's enough cord to go up and do mains also with a skid on it. And I talked to several vendors, and I talked to the Tunnel Vision guys, and this ViewTech is the #1 rated good company. They honor their warranty, and so that's the one we want to go with.
Any questions from the commission?
Is this like what Tunnel Vision does?
Yeah, it's
What-
not. It's,
what
they
propels-
have the bigger camera that's on a tractor trailer, and so they can spin and look up pipes and do all this other stuff. This is just a push camera that would be able to push in to see what.
You have to
where-
manually push it,
You have to manually push it.
so you can't go down very far, I mean, down the pipe.
You can go about half a block with it.
Oh, you can?
Yeah,
Oh,
if you
okay.
take it if you go with the flow, so to speak.
I understand, yeah. Yeah, I understand.
No pun intended.
Any other questions? Looking for a motion?
Move we apply for the grant.
I support.
Motion Commissioner Matten, supported by Commissioner Bostwick to authorize pursuing the RAP grant for the wastewater department's sewer camera. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Next item on our agenda is beach patio, concrete stamped patio 25 by 40 feet on the lake side of the beach house. This patio will be designed to add seating at a later date. If we choose, this is a budget item to be paid through the Dr. Cretans Fund. We were able to get 2 quotes due to the expertise of the concrete work. Low bid was Rock Road Masonry at $8,100. I attended, and I believe Commissioner Nemechek attended a Parks and Recreation Board meeting where this project was discussed. It's been some time that the Parks and Recreation Board has wanted to make an improvement like this on the water side of the beach house. So now it's in front of us. We have our Parks and Recreation Director, Nicole Sanderson, with us.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Part of the original plan when we built the beach house was to have a patio out front. Funds, of course, ran out, and we never did that, so it's always been kind of on our want list. So with the Mary Cretans money, we had budgeted money for that, $10,000 this year to do that.
Any questions from the commission?
Move approval.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Gay, supported by Commissioner Nemechek to approve the pursuing the beach patio project proposed by the Parks and Recreation Department. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion is carried. Nicole has the next item. It's Snowfest at the Sports Park.
The reason this is coming to you tonight is because we have done Snowfest in years past. It's been 3 years since we've had a Snowfest. This year, we feel like we can open up the ski hill with the Snowfest because of our snowmaking capabilities. We actually have a date in mind that we're going to be able to open. The 19th is the day that the kids get out of school. So we'd like to open up with a snow fence, or a snow dance. In years past, we've needed so many volunteers to run this that it's become harder and harder to get those volunteers. So this year, we're proposing to have the DC Trip kids help us out with that. Each family would bring at least 5 volunteers, which we would need at least 30 volunteers to help run this. All expenses would be out of the revenues that we make from the Snowfest dance, and then 10% of the proceeds would go to the ski hill. In years past, the ski hill has absorbed all the costs and we've made some money, but this year, we figure 10% will still be significant in order to go towards the ski hill.
I move for Snowfest.
I support it.
Commissioner Nemechek moved, Commissioner Boswick supported to approve the Parks and Recreation Department plan to have a snowfest in December at the sports park. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion carries. Next item is also, Nicole, you're proposing to buy a Kubota, that's a 4-wheel drive tractor, I think, side by side for the sports park.
And this would be dual purpose. We would use it for the sports park, for our emergency use for our ski patrol. It's equipped with tracks. It would also be used up at the sports park to move snow guns. In years past, we've used a snowmobile, which was adequate, but not as good as something with tracks. In the summer, it would offer use in the parks and would replace the need for another truck. In the parks, we have replaced one of our trucks with 2 bicycles that you'll see the park people riding around on. A side-by-side would also be very useful as far as a dual-purpose piece of machinery that we can use in both places. Right now, we do not have a snowmobile at the ski hill, so we will have to do something. So we're hoping that we can do this. At budget time, things were cut out of the budget, and one of them was my equipment, about $20,000 worth of equipment. So I'm proposing that I use my leftover money from my equipment fund this year to start it and then finance it over the next 2 years.
So it hit 3 budgets.
It would hit 3 budgets.
Any questions from the commission?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion Commissioner Gay, supported by Commissioner Mattman to approve Parks and Recreation Department's purchase of a Kubota side-by-side over a 3-year payment period. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Motion's carried. Nicole is still up with recreation user fees.
A couple of months ago, probably a month and a half ago, you approved the user fees for the year for the Recreation Department. After speaking with Jay, our campground host, after we've closed out almost all of our books, we'd like to make a little bit of an adjustment to our campground fees. I did print out the whole user fee. It's a little bit confusing. What we're looking at tonight is just the campground portion. And we're proposing that we raise the rates on our dailies, which would in turn raise the rates on our monthlies. This still gives the campers that stay there a month 10 free days, and it adjusts our daily rates. One of the reasons that we're doing this is because we can see in the future that power costs are going to go up. We've heard a lot of talk about, power going up, utilities going up, maybe not our WPPI, but other campgrounds are going to have to make adjustments, plus minimum wages going up. So all of the other campgrounds have not published their user fees for next year. However, we feel that our best guesstimate is that we're probably going to be right in line with all of the other campgrounds that offer the same kind of service, if you can do apples to apples as much as possible. I'm taking Jay's advice because Jay has just done a phenomenal job down there. He knows his clientele, he knows his customer base, and he knows what the comments he gets back. So I took his advice, and I'd like to amend the user fees for next year.
Okay, so you're only talking the campgrounds, you have other user
Yes,
fees, it
and
looks like they're increased, so what?
We already did that 2 months ago. Those ones that are
These other
below
ones
the
have already been
campground,
approved, but
they've
we
already
didn't
been,
modify the campground ones.
they've already been approved. We're just looking at the campground.
Well, I went to the Parks and Rec meeting, and they talked about, you guys were also going to have Wi-Fi next year, right?
We have Wi-Fi this year, but it's been pretty unreliable. We've had some problems with it. If there's a complaint at the campground, it is because of our Wi-Fi. So one of their big Jay's big thing is please get the Wi-Fi fixed.
Okay,
So-
so I mean, and then you also said that the other campgrounds around the area don't even have Wi-Fi, right?
A lot of them don't.
Don't.
A lot of them don't.
Okay.
And cable TV is gonna be iffy with Charter going over to their transition. It's very expensive now to get Charter. So a lot of people will be using the Wi-Fi to access Chrome and different medias so they can get it on their computers. So Jay has tasked me with the wonderful task of getting the Wi-Fi to be very reliable. So we're working on that.
So was the campground relatively full as far as this year?
$108,000 is what we're, the report we did today.
I understand that, but was it relatively full?
Yes.
Okay.
At the Parks and Recreation Board meeting, they were ecstatic over the performance of the campground. It's becoming a little profit center.
Well, and always keep in mind also that making money is always good. Putting improvements in the park is always good, but that also brings a ton of people into our town. So we have to always keep that in mind. Even if we broke even, it would be a good thing, but we actually make money and bring people into the town.
I'll move approval.
I support it.
Motion Commissioner Nemecheck, supported by Commissioner Bostwick, to approve the recommendation from the Parks and Recreation Board to change the fees for the campground next year. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the State of Michigan State Trunk Line Contract. We have a small contract to maintain US 2 and 41 through the corporate limits of the city. We're being asked tonight, it's a 5-year contract, we're being asked to pass a resolution to appoint Mark Palega as the street administrator. He's our Public Works and Electric Department supervisor. And a resolution to authorize Mark Palega, street administrator, and Kim, our city clerk, to sign the renewal contract. And the responsible staff for that is our city treasurer, Vicki Schrader. Vicki.
Well, I was just going to go over exactly what you just said, so we're just looking for 2 resolutions tonight. One is to appoint Mark, the street administrator, since he is the new street administrator, to replace Barry Lund, and then also we need to renew that contract, so just a resolution to allow him and the city clerk to sign that resolution, or to sign that contract.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Gay, supported by Commissioner Mattinen
I have
to,
a question.
oh, I'm sorry.
Is that contract negotiated, or does the state just come along and say what they'll pay us?
They basically come along and say what they'll pay us, because when Darla
We don't lose
was-
money.
We don't know. They reimburse us. They reimburse us for all of our expenses, including our overhead and our benefit.
It's not a flat fee, it's based on our costs?
Correct.
It used to be a much bigger contract. They used to pay us to mow basically to mow and to keep the highway corridor through the corporate limits of the city in park-like condition, and they won't pay that much anymore. So we know what they'll pay us, and we make sure we don't spend any more than that.
Right. Right.
Okay, thank you.
Did I call that question?
No.
No.
Okay, it's been moved and supported to authorize the State of Michigan State Trunk Line contract with Mr. Palega and the city clerk signing. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion is carried. Lot 470, we're being asked, thank you, Vicki. We're being asked again to sell Lot 470. We sold it before, and then we bought it back because of a complicated situation, which I'll have the city manager explain to you. So we're being asked to sell it again to a new party.
So lot 471, Lake Bluff Estates number 15, that was always handled through a private sale. That has just went back on the market this summer and it's already sold. So the new owner of lot 471 is Dan Halkeman, and so he gave me a call and said he's interested in lot 470. Kind of same situation as the previous owner, needs more garage storage kind of room. And I explained to him, the last deal was your front facade would need to match your home, so they're not just putting up a little garage and and, trying to get away with something. He said, nope, absolutely, he would definitely work with the contractor to, dress up the front of the garage and make it look nice, kind of similar to so people knew the garage went with the home. So I'm proposing, he agreed to $10,000, and then he pays expenses to have the deed recorded and everything. So,
Questions from the commission?
Is that the going rate for lots in that area?
that's the value of that lot.
I think they were higher some years ago, and I think it's probably what your question is, but that's what the market says today.
Yeah, well, the other lots that were built on, the land value is $14,000. This one was a lower lot, no water lateral to it, a little less desirable, but still, it's
Yeah.
buildable.
It needs more development.
Yeah,
to
needs
make
some
it-
fill.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I'd move to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign deed for the sale of lot number 470. The owner would have to follow the policy on the sale of city land, especially the part stating, build the structure within 18 months and hook up to utilities available. The facade and construction of the garage will follow that of the house. If this is not done within 18 months, the property reverts back to the city.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Gay, supported by Commissioner Mattman, to authorize the city clerk and city manager to proceed with the sale of lot 470 with the city's normal regulations applying. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion is carried. Last item on our printed agenda tonight is authorize the city clerk to appoint workers for the November 4, 2014 general election. Kim, is there anything you want to add to that, or?
I will need to appoint workers. We will be having precinct 1 and 2, as we always do, but we will also be having the absentee voter counting board precinct, which we normally have in the August and the November larger elections. So, and then a requirement that's been fairly new, but we've been doing it the last several elections, is the receiving board. So, the 2 precincts, the AV counting board, and a receiving board, I will need to appoint workers to.
I make a motion that we authorize the city clerk to appoint the election workers and alternates for the November 4th election.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Bostwick, supported by Commissioner Gay, to authorize the city clerk to appoint election workers for the November 4 election. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, that motion's carried. Next item on our agenda is the city manager's reports.
I am a member of the Public Library Advisory Commission, and at our last meeting, they passed out their annual report from the public library. So I've passed it through my staff. We've all looked at it. If you want to take a look at it and pass it on down to other commissioners.
Start down that way.
This past Saturday, we had our first annual Fall Fest. Very, very well attended. It started at noon. We ran out of hot dogs by 1, ended up getting 100 more, ran out of them by 2 o'clock. We had 175 pumpkins for the kids to paint. We ran out of them. We ended up getting more. So the excellent turnout. The weather couldn't have been better. Very, very good event. We have a couple suggestions for different, doing things a little differently and adding some new events to that next year. So very, very good event. Our ski swap this year is scheduled for Saturday, November 8th. We advertise this in all the local schools and in the newspaper. Just check out our website for drop-off times on Friday night and when the actual sale is on Saturday, but mark your calendars. Saturday, November 8th for the ski swap. Channel 21, we had a lot of questions. We still air our commission meetings, so the tape of tonight's meeting will be aired again Thursday night after City of Escanaba's commission meeting. However, Charter changed Escanaba's channel from Channel 21 to 191. So we'll put that on our website because people are going to Channel 21 to see it and it's not there. So we'll try to get that out as best we can beyond our control. And then we also are uploading our commission meetings on our website too, if you have access to a computer to watch them there. I haven't talked to this gentleman, but he came to the window very upset. Mr. Levine is a city resident, and he has a complaint about our compost site. Every time he goes there, he sees people there that are not city residents, and then he is seeing people dumping things there that are not leaves and brush type things. I will try to reach out to him yet this week and start a conversation, but I guess if people see, people dumping things in our compost site that don't belong there, you need to call the cops. That they need to come and issue the tickets to that kind of thing. I've talked to Director Paul Geyer on this. Those were his exact words, so we will.
You said two things, though. You said you also complained about non-city residents, and it's not closed to non-city residents.
True, yep, and then I talked to Mark today too, and we're probably gonna put some signage up there. Rules of the compost site, really, there's no rules even posted.
We did have a piece of equipment in there past week when I was doing some of my fall cleaning. I stopped and talked with our operator, Mr. Quinn,
Yep.
and it was his opinion that there is a really large volume of material that comes in from outside the city.
Yep. We do get complaints periodically of the companies that own landscaping businesses. And so we've called a couple of them, but if they're hired by Gladstone residents, to rake up their leaves in the fall, even if the company's not from Gladstone, they feel that's their residents' right to put their stuff in our compost site. I guess I can't argue with that, but, they see on the side of the truck, a company not from Gladstone putting leaves up there, so. We will try to get some signage up there and, monitor it the best we can. If you remember, Caroline Kennedy was a Gladstone resident. She recently moved to Traverse City. She was our Michigan Municipal League Northern Field representative for MML. MML has announced a new UP consultant for the Northern Field office. That would be Scott McInnes. He was a city manager in Houghton for many, many years, and he just retired in September. So as of October 1st, he now works for MML. We'll probably see him up in Marquette later this week. And I've met Scott several times at UP City Managers meetings, and definitely when he's down this way, I'll have him stop by and catch him up on Gladstone things. So we have a new art display here in City Hall for Dr. Mary Cretan's Art Gallery. We're back to artwork from the Gladstone schools, and this will be up through mid-November. We'll change it out before we do Old Fashioned Christmas, which is Black Friday. So if you have a minute, stop by and see the new art display. DDA and EDC tomorrow, and then Wednesday through the rest of the week I'll be up in Marquette with the MML convention. And if you want to stop by and see the stuff we have on the table over here, that's going to be at the city table. And then I have a DVD we're going to play, like a 6.5-minute video of the after-school program. Gladstone is representing Region 7, which is the whole UP, in this MML competition for Community Excellence Award. So looking forward to that up in Marquette. That's all I have.
Moving on to city commission and committee reports and board and commission reports. Anything from the rest of the commissioners?
If you're wondering for ideas for Fall Fest, I know that the once great city of Bessemer has Pumpkin Fest, and it's drawn into one of the big things they have. They have carving contests and they have the biggest pumpkin. But what really started generating a lot of interest was seeing how far you could catapult a pumpkin.
Oh.
And they got up over half a mile.
Wow.
And then had to move the location of the competition.
Wow. We had pumpkin putting and pumpkin bowling. We did have some games that involved pumpkins, but not catapulting them. So.
Anything else? I attended a 911 authority meeting. I'm the alternate for our public safety director. Of course, we all know the sheriff is retiring. He has been the chairman of the 911 authority. So at present, we do not have a chairman. We're going with a vice chairman. Public Safety Director made it perfectly clear that I was in no way supposed to allow him to be appointed chairman in his absence, otherwise he'd probably do something mean to me. So I complied. I went to the Parks and Recreation Board meeting last week. The Parks and Recreation Board meeting was a very positive meeting. They've got some really good capital improvement projects in place, but more important than that, we started the master plan for the sports park. I felt when I got on the commission that the sports park was a lightning rod, so to speak, and we needed to know what we're going to do with that area. We developed the master plan, and now the Parks and Recreation Board, along with the Parks and Recreation Director and the department, is following that master plan with a lot of outside grant monies. So that was a big part of what the Parks and Recreation Board meeting was about. So it was really a positive meeting. And as the city manager said, tomorrow morning, the DDA, I always ask the commissioners if you are available to come to the DDA meeting, and I know Commissioner Nemechek will probably be at the EDC meeting tomorrow.
They will.
Very good. Then moving on to, we're back to public comment, if anybody has any public comment. Mr. DeClaire?
Tim DeClaire, 10 Waterford Avenue. I've been following this chicken ordinance for a while, or the issues around it, and to be honest with you guys, I can't believe what I'm hearing here. I can't believe what I just saw tonight. This is something very simple. The USDA and 4-H, which follows USDA guidelines, have already invented the wheel on how to do animal husbandry. Whether you call them a pet, or whether you wind up using them for their eggs or whatever, if it's chickens you want, it's very simple. I've read the city ordinance regarding animals. It's pretty vague. I'm pretty sure everyone knows what a dog or a cat is, and they do make a mess, and they do make waste. So do chickens. But the good thing about chickens is you have other things you can do. You have eggs from them, and if you raise the right breed, not only do you have eggs, but you can use them for your grill if you choose to do so. And whatever waste they have, you can also use for your garden. It makes excellent compost. So to sit back and play the game, whatever's going on here, whoever's part of a responsibility is with the city or the leadership within the city or whichever group you want to have it, it's real simple. Come up with a common sense ordinance to address it before it becomes a problem. I don't know if you guys really realize how many chickens are already in the city. They're already here, so instead of waiting for it to become a problem, address it now. And for people up on the hill versus in the city, there's a huge difference for allowances for square footage versus what you need for animals, what you might have in a small lot in the city, versus someone that might be on a 1 acre lot or a half-acre lot up on a hill. So you got to keep those things in mind. You just can't look at what's down here locally here. There's a much larger city that's affected by this. Where I live, there's people that have chickens. I hear them. It doesn't bug me. I also hear kids screaming and yelling. I hear motorcycles scooting by, or dirt bikes scooting by, or four-wheelers scooting by. So if you're going to do something with a chicken ordinance, put some heads together and just get it done and make it with common sense. Because there's a few other things you guys need to be really concerned with and get done with than this chicken stuff. And it's been going on way too long.
I'd like to address that. I don't think by any means tonight our action is making this problem go away. It's going to come back. You're going to hear more about it because you're absolutely correct. There are lots of chickens in Gladstone. I don't think they're going to go away just because the commission said we're not going to change the ordinance. And I think it's going to create a bigger problem for our staff to have to deal with. I would predict at some point in time we're going to have to come back. Whether people like it or not, we're going to have to find some way to accommodate chickens in the city. Right now, we've tasked Commissioner Gay to look at the current ordinance, and I guess that's the next step. This has taken an inordinate amount of time, I would say, for a relatively simple matter.
May I say something?
You have to take the podium and tell us who you are, please.
My name is Rita Lindahl, and I am a resident, North 15th Street. There are large land lots down there.
Yep.
I was previous on the bluff, and I did raise chickens. One thing I would like the city to consider is that people are trying to find different ways to take care of their families that is less expensive, more healthy. The eggs are excellent. Chickens are not a problem. I had 12 hens and a rooster. I got no complaints whatsoever. You'll hear a rooster crow in the morning. Actually, it's soothing. You know, I mean, it's nice to hear that country sound. But it is all about health anymore, and it is about expenses, because a lot of people can't afford $3 a dozen. You know, if you have a passel of kids, you're going to go through a lot of eggs, and you can use eggs for a lot of things. So, and chickens, you can grill them. Chickens eat a lot of bugs. They keep the bugs down. There's just a lot of pluses to it. So before you say absolutely no chickens, please get more public opinion.
Do you understand tonight, we said absolutely no chickens?
Yes.
Okay.
I would ask that you reconsider that.
I got something.
Mr. Hughesby.
Stick my 2 cents for a thing. I think there's the same thing that happened with this is gonna happen with that ORV ordinance. You're gonna put people on that committee who have no knowledge of any of this stuff, and you're gonna get the same thing as you did with the ORV one.
Anybody else? Moving on to city commissioner comments. I'll start with Commissioner Nemechek.
No, I don't have anything else.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Bostwick.
No, I don't.
Commissioner Gay.
Got a couple things. I don't like it, but I have a responsibility to do what I can to mitigate liability for the city. Ultimately, what that means is mitigating liability for city residents. So I will, I'll put my 2 cents in as far as what needs to be addressed with the ordinance to clarify the language. That being said, I'm still kind of confused as to this entire process, because if I remember correctly, and I am going to look back on the minutes from August 11th, if I remember correctly, we directed the Planning Commission to provide us with an ordinance. My understanding is that ordinance would go through the process, which means it would go through a public hearing and it would get a vote. I don't like things being done without public input. We have had some public input on chickens. Everyone that's come into this building for a commission meeting has been in support. So, we have, I look at the staff report. The staff report says the supporting documentation is, besides the planning commission meeting minutes and the commission minutes, the staff doesn't approve of or doesn't think that we should put chickens in the city. Well, of our staff, of our department heads, 3 of them live in the city. The rest don't. One of our planning commissioners does not live within the city limits.
And they don't have to.
I
And city
understand that.
residents don't have to live in the city
understand that.
limits either.
I understand
Okay,
that completely.
just clarifying.
But when you put forward someone making an assertion, I don't think you should do this, and that's not subject to them where they live, I question that.
Matt, Commissioner Gay, I'm sorry. If you think my staff doesn't have this city when they come to work, they
I'm
work for
not-
this city.
I'm not questioning that, I'm questioning the
Well,
process.
I-
And as with anything anywhere, I think things need to vote. I think they should have a vote and they should have a public hearing. But evidently I either misunderstood the process or what we asked the planning commission to do.
Excuse me for just 1 minute.
Sure.
Is there something?
Just to clarify with the process, so that we are clear, the city commission directed the planning commission to come up with an ordinance, which they did do.
Okay.
It is the city commission's responsibility to approve whether that ordinance continues on the path.
Okay, so let me ask a question then. If
Yes.
we asked them to come up with an ordinance, did we intend to waste their time by not putting it through the process?
No.
Why did we even ask them to come up with an ordinance then?
That's at the point where it's at right now, it's a draft ordinance. It's your guys' responsibility to pass this to say, yes, we are moving it forward in the process to consider
Okay.
this as an ordinance amendment or new ordinance,
But
whatever the case
essentially,
may be.
essentially we wasted their
No,
time because.
if I can finish, just so I can clarify for the process. If the commission would have said, yes, we want to proceed with this ordinance that we directed them to write, then you would have set for an introduction at the next meeting, as I had said earlier, that after that introduction, then you would have set a public hearing. I would have to look, you may be able to have the introduction and the public hearing at a same meeting, but you absolutely cannot have, you know, the public, the introduction and adoption at the same time. So there are 2 more meetings that it would have to be out there, but you have to notify the public that this is up on the table for us to make a decision on. The motion that was made tonight was not to move that ordinance, that draft ordinance forward,
Right, but we asked the planning commission to put together a draft ordinance,
which they did.
which evidently we never had any intention of even putting through the process, so essentially we waste their time.
Well, but what you're saying is that the process wasn't followed. I'm just clarifying.
No, I
The
was.
process
I
was absolutely followed.
I was questioning the process.
Yes, okay.
And what I'm questioning is, why did we even ask them to put together a draft ordinance if we never never planned on putting it through a process, public hearing, anything?
At the time
It's a
of
waste
that
of
meeting,
time.
there was a
We've talked
majority
more about
motion
chickens
to
than
go
we've talked
on.
about the doggone budget, and for nothing.
I'm not
It's a
trying
waste
to
of time.
argue with you, I just want to clarify the process
Well,
when you're
that's my
calling it into
problem,
question.
and
so-
frankly, I think if cities like Ann Arbor and Holland and these other cities in Michigan can come up with something that works, which Ann Arbor is what this particular ordinance is modeled after, I feel it at least needs a vote. Basically, I don't know who's in support, who's, evidently, we don't either, because we couldn't even differentiate the people that voted in the survey, we couldn't differentiate if they were in the city
And to
or
clarify
not and
that
how they voted.
process, Our survey, we do not have the filtering capability on that survey to say from that point, you know, when they went on who lives where, who whatever. We asked the questions,
Right.
do you live above the bluff, do you live not, do you, at some point we've claimed some responsibility that, an expectation that people are going to tell the truth, with, otherwise why do the survey? Because if you can't do that.
Well, but-
I couldn't provide
But how do
you
you,
that
how do you put in
information.
credibility to something like that? You can't.
Then if you wanted to, we should have went back and said, if you're not if you're, but it still comes down to, you'd have to trust that they say, live in the city, or I don't live in the city. They have to tell the truth at some point, and you have to trust that, because if they say, if somebody said, I don't live in the city, when they do or they don't, they could still proceed, depending how they answer the question. I can't, you know, from that point on, I can't provide that
I understand that, but to
detail.
put that forward as some sort of substantiating evidence, I don't buy.
It was-
And that's my problem
Staff
with
was
it.
asked to do the
I
survey, they did the
understand.
best that they could.
I
and those were the
understand, but
results that
I'm
they
just,
had.
I'm stating the facts. You cannot substantiate who said what, where they live, so it's not, you can't quantify the data that comes from it.
Commissioner Gay has the floor here, so we're going to stay with you now.
The, you know, the other thing is currently in the state of Michigan, the most rapidly growing city is the city of Ann Arbor. Not conveniently because of chickens, I'm not trying to say that that's the reason they're growing. But on the US 23 corridor, from Ann Arbor all the way up to Fenton, it is becoming one large metropolitan area. And frankly, I think with us basically railroading this into the point where we're not even going to have a conversation about it, I think it's relatively narrow-minded, and I think that's the type of stuff that will keep us where we're at, unfortunately. That's all I've got.
Commissioner Mattinen.
Just a comment in regard to Commissioner Gay's comments about the chicken ordinance. This commission has decided tonight that they don't want to pursue it further, so it is actually going through the process. 3-2 vote.
That's very similar to the tax process, too, that didn't get, that, you know.
That's all I have.
I said it before, and I'll say it again, this chicken issue is not put to bed. If anybody, including staff, thinks it's put to bed, that's really short-term thinking. I think that there are a number of people in our community who want to have chickens, and we're going to have to accommodate them. You don't have to agree with that. We know what we did tonight. We know we've got a report coming back from Commissioner Gay on what he finds when he looks at our ordinance with the appropriate staff people who are charged with the day-to-day administration of those ordinances. Moving on to other business, we had a Delta Avenue repaving project with federal money. I haven't heard any more about where that's going. I guess we found out in the 9th hour that the money wasn't there, or where are we at on that project?
I got an email last Thursday from Pam Boyd. She is with Michigan Department of Transportation, and said basically they allowed like overruns on earlier projects to eat up the money. And when our paperwork was submitted, there was no money left. Yet we did everything within the time frame that they had identified. So I'm not satisfied with that answer. I'm going to reach out to Representative McBroom and Senator Casperson and Dave Nyberg again. That's wrong. And they said, well, we could put our name on the 2016 list. If there's any money left over, we would be allocated it. I said, in the 9th hour, in October 2016, that's not when we do projects, And then she said, well, your next chance is 2018.
Well, I called you on this matter because we were notified in a rather late date that the public hearing that we're going to introduce this project to citizens was not going to be held, and so I directed you to contact the governor's representative, so I would hope
Which I
that we'll
did.
hear more back from the governor, because I think that's something more could be expected of the State Department that made that decision. I would hope the governor would hold them accountable for that. We've seen, and this commission has seen a number of articles passed our way from the city of Escanaba about regional electric costs going up dramatically due to the Presque Isle decision. And Marquette is now saying they really screwed up in how they handle that matter in the latest articles I've seen, which has the potential to cost many residential citizens in the Upper Peninsula a lot more money for their electric power sources. To this date, I've believed, and I still believe, that it's not going to affect the city of Gladstone because of our relationship with WPPI, unless I hear differently from staff. I think you have made contact with WPPI, and WPPI is officially not worried about the Presque Isle matter.
Correct.
So that's good news. I think we made a
That's
smart
better than
decision.
$50 a month.
A whole lot better. And then Mr. Huseby addressed us about the RV ordinance tonight. I think it was our last commission meeting. I had several residents who have been contacting the city manager in my old neighborhood who are negatively impacted by the ordinance and tell me, and I tend to believe them, that they really can't, on their parcels, find room to park their vehicles off-street. And I asked staff to take another look at it at our last meeting to see if there was some way we could accommodate those unique cases. The commission was told at that meeting that staff did not feel that could be done, so at that meeting, I'm just bringing this up so everybody's up to speed, that probably the staff was going to be issuing citations, and so I think that's the reason why citations have been issued for those particular circumstances. So now everybody knows what we talked at our last public meeting. That's probably going to continue to come back before this commission as well, because there are some unique circumstances in the city that are hard to accommodate. I don't know if Mr. Husby's is one of those or not, but I know there are some places where it's pretty hard to get off the street. So,
Mayor?
unfortunately, some of these problems are going to come back at us again. Yes, Mr. Nemchek.
This paved lot right behind us here is owned by,
Where? You mean
right
that
down the end of
behind,
the street here.
that's got the fence around it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not totally around it. I see a few RVs or trailers parked in there. Is there a charge to park there? Do we know anything about it?
It's owned by Delfab, the
Owned by
owner of the
Delfab.
building.
I mean, it's a huge lot. It's all paved. It's basically empty. And it's right in your old neighborhood.
Interestingly enough, that was created by the city of Gladstone as an economic development project for a company that was going to be here and create a lot of jobs, and they did create a lot of jobs, and they didn't last very long, and so city money was used to create that parking lot. I think that's interesting
You know,
background.
I just wonder, Does anyone know what it would cost to park something there, or is that a possibility?
Could you check into that and come back to the commission with a report?
It'd be about 35 to 50 bucks
Well, we're waiting to hear a report, so.
A year?
a month.
A month? Well, then we have the new facility being constructed on the bluff in the industrial park, right?
Checked it out.
You weren't at our last meeting. I wanted you to know that we did take a look at it with staff about some particular special situations. I don't know if yours is a special situation or not. I'm not talking about your particular situation, but I have, let me finish please. I have visited with several people in my old neighborhood who wanted me to walk through their parcel with them, and I did, and I can see that it's very hard for them to comply with the ordinance. So, that being said, I'm not forgetting you this evening. I did at our last meeting. I got down the road and I said, oh, I forgot the city clerk comments.
Just a reminder, we're full steam ahead for the November 4th election. If you're interested in working the election, I would love to have new workers. Or not new workers, additional workers. And I'm reaching out to some high schoolers as well, because I can have a few 16-year-olds. Not all 16-year-olds, but so if people are interested, or if you have some kids that are interested, it's a great experience for them. I know on some applications, I had a couple kids that used it for some college applications. That was an experience that they, couldn't kind of come by easily. So it's a great opportunity. You do get paid for the day. So anyway, so I have that. Absentee ballots are available. I will be working the Saturday prior to the election from 9 to 2. For anybody who won't be able to get to the polls on election day, you can get an absentee ballot. Or you can call me and there's still time to do that as well. So that's it, election. Thank you.
Anything else for the business? We stand adjourned.